Okay, is Tyler, we have, no worries, okay, all right. All right, good morning, everyone. We are going to call to order the monthly Parks, Recs, and Greenway meeting for June 3rd at 9 a.m. Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order.
All right.
Okay, all right, to begin. First item up is considering allowing remote participation. I do know that we have John Barish. No.
You don't have to.
Oh,
She's not invited.
gotcha. Okay, thank you. So we have all of our committee or board here in present, so we'll go ahead. Next item is adoption of the agenda as published. I'd like to move to make a motion to accept the agenda.
So don't need a second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. We have approved the agenda for today. Okay, next item up is adoption of the previous meeting minutes. And just a reminder, we have two packets. We have the April meeting and then the May meeting minutes were just a note that we did not have a meeting because of the quorum. So two
I
meetings.
approved that one for sure.
Did you? Okay, you read those. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from both the April and May meetings. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed, meeting minutes accepted. Public comment, we do not have anyone signed up for.
No one is here.
Public comment,
No.
okay. Moving on to unfinished business. The next item up is the discussion of ideas for the memorial for our former mayor, Mike Cognac, and that's something that we have talked about in a number of different meetings. And I know John also was going to be helping prepare some wording around a dedication or a plaque. So I just want to kind of bring it back to everyone to make sure we're moving forward and we keep momentum around this project here. I did send out, I think Austin has printed out a little slide around our proposal, or a proposal. We said we were going to come back with ideas, so we'll definitely open that up. But I want to just share some thoughts that we had put together, at least from talking to others, on what things we could do for Mike. So first off is the idea, of course, to have a plaque, that we have wording around what Mike has done for the community, his impact to the greenways, and just kind of some more context of his role as mayor here at Marvin. And then we talked about whether that be a standalone plaque or a bench with a plaque, but that's, again, somewhere that there's a physical item that's stating what he's done.
Yeah, and this is John. Just wanted to mention, I have been working on a draft of it. I'm not ready to kind of present that yet. Just wanted to kind of run it by a few people first, but I am working on a draft for the wording that we might use.
He's got draft language going for a plaque.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, John. And again, this is what we're talking here too. I want to have others weigh into. I mean, certainly the plaque will have the wording, and then kind of talking about where would it be appropriate for a location. So just to kind of bounce out some thoughts. One, obviously, we have a new Village Hall Park, and that's a very central location here. What, again, would depend on what we're affixing it to, whether it's a standalone sign or a bench. But the Village Hall Park would be one option. Another thought would be along the Marvin Loop, since that was a big part of where Mike impacted the community. So again, different thoughts on where to put it on the trail. Where I believe and we'll look at the design a little bit later for the Hall Park, there's going to be a connector into the Marvin Loop from the Village Hall. So perhaps somewhere as you enter the greenway there from the loop. And then the third just option would be maybe on the actual first phase of Marvin Loop, which is the part that runs across Joe Carr around the bend towards Marvin School, because that's really where the loop originated and really the part that Mike was the most impactful on. So there was a thought that there's a lot of heavy traffic too. That's probably the most walked area because of its connection across multiple neighborhoods. So visibility of the plaque versus just having it somewhere on the grounds. Mm-hmm. So any thoughts, comments on location or type of plaque?
I'm sorry. Oh, so you can go.
No, go ahead.
All right. So sometimes I see like plaques on like trees or like rocks. Would it be like one of those or?
I mean, that's definitely an option, right? I guess the thing is, how do we keep it visible? But you're
Yeah.
right. I know you see on like a big boulder, sometimes you see
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
mhm.
If it were substantial enough, I would be down with that. I think in addition to those options, other options would be like on a plinth, like a pedestal or something. And then there's the bench option where it would be, one of those, you get the plaque. It depends on how wordy we are, whether the bench option would work. Mm-hmm. One of the thoughts that I'd had looking at these proposed options is that we had talked in the past a little bit about sort of a walk of honor or whatever. And I think if we think we're going to do that in the future, and we don't have to have a guarantee then, but if we think that that's something we'd like to pursue in the future, and I think it's probably a good idea, given that we're going to have Village Hall Park over here, that Village Hall Park is the place to do that, and this would be then the first installment.
And maybe one that's a little more significant than the paver.
Exactly,
Yes,
right.
Differentiating from a paver, but in that area of recognition.
Yeah, he definitely deserves more than a paver. But if we're going to have that vibe, that purpose as part of the park, then this is sort of the grand gate to that concept.
As opposed to having it kind of all over the park, the town.
Yeah,
Yes.
or even if we branch out from there and it's not at the beginning, it sort of just signifies this is where this idea started.
Okay.
And this is sort of the grand thing. So that was kind of what occurred to me looking at these options, as opposed to, it's heavily trafficked over there, but depending on what form it takes, like a bench over there isn't really going to do anything, and it might just sort of get lost in the background. Whereas, people will be walking by it, but will they notice it? Will they look at it? Whereas over here, we have more control to landscape around it, make it a feature, maybe, put a little solar light on it or something for evening, or, whatever.
You could also do
Yeah,
a more,
and there will be a component of the actual loop that, is kind of traversing the outside edge of the Village Hall Park. So, potentially something there. I don't know that it needs to be specifically a part of any other, I think they've talked about something similar to like a Wounded Warriors Memorial type thing somewhere else, and then within the Village Hall Park, and also our other idea about other types of recognition in another spot. But I think there probably would end up for a bench or a monument of some sort, kind of along the loop, but within Village Hall Park, perhaps.
Okay.
you could also do a memorial gardens. That's a lot of people do that.
Gardens, you said?
Name a garden. That's something that would be very on brand for this village. So
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I kind of like the combination of the two, Village Hall Park, and then kind of, I think what John was getting at
Near the loop where.
is that we can kind of hit two birds with that, is to, where it's positioned in Village Hall Park, if it connects to a trail-ish feature.
That way the wording would make sense, right?
Yes.
Here is the inside for the greenway, and here's our greenway.
So it's not necessarily at the location of the first loop, but it is at a trailhead for part of.
not that it's super relevant. We are planning a separate memorial on this side of the building for wounded veterans. So just take that into account.
Yep. And I think on that too, and I didn't put it in here yet because I know we're going to talk about the landscaping of the park, but I think, as you said, the pavers is something we want to make sure, if we're going to go with this Hall of Honor or the Walk of Honor, that in the design we have a place that we could eventually put pavers or something, right? That we.
We'll have to talk about that.
Right,
yeah.
or how that would be incorporated with the landscaping, right?
Yeah.
So just maybe to recap, so we've got three things, as you said. We've got the specific memorial for Mike, a recognition. Then we potentially have the Wounded Warrior, the veterans piece, that's someplace else. And then the proposed idea of a Walk of Hall of Honor somewhere in the park. But they're three distinct, but they should somewhat have a relevance to each other, right? We don't want to.
Yeah, I was going to say, whether we actually commit to a Walk of Honor that's multiple people, I think that there's a possibility that we might do that. So sort of anticipating that potential future that would make it reasonable to put it here in the park. And then even if we don't commit to that as, say, like a thing where, because I think one of the resistance to that might be like, are we really going to sell those to the public? That's a logistical issue, right? But we are going to, I anticipate, have other people who have made significant contributions that, kind of like a plaque over here on Village Hall, we're going to want to honor. And so even if it's not
Purchase
open to the public purchased kind of thing, I do see wherever we plant this as potentially being the beginning of sort of a tradition, even if it's 5 years apart, and so we should sort of have that longevity in mind.
I was just going to say, think about the future, that, maybe somebody that we know might end up on there, later, possibly. I'm just saying, we're not doing this just for the past, we're doing this for the
Right,
future's past.
right, okay.
No, exactly, exactly.
Okay. So I think we have thought that the location-wise, it sounds like we maybe do we have consensus or just, I mean, we're not voting on it per se, that the idea of having it in the village hall near the Greenway entrance or park, this would be the location?
That would be my preferred. You have thoughts?
Right.
Deb?
Once Tyler is here, he's going to have the plans for Village Hall Park today, so you can kind of fold this discussion into that a little bit and see how you want to implement that on there. It may simply be, we already know roughly where there's going to be walkways. It could simply be just y'all putting a sign in the ground, putting a plaque, and renaming it.
And it might be nice to just ask the people who did this design, where would you put it?
There you go.
Right? I mean,
So I
they
think,
know their design better than I
Right.
can decipher off of
see
this.
for it, yes. I guess too, this also allows us to kind of put some time frame around this because we obviously have a goal for getting the park in place. and
We
then
don't have a goal, we have a deadline.
We have a deadline. And I guess the reason I say that is that way this also doesn't get pushed down much further either because we also have we can incorporate getting this done with the park itself so that
Exactly. You
this
guys
doesn't get-
have time.
Yes, but it doesn't get lost in years of planning. We've got a finite time that we're going to have something.
Well, I think we decided we want to do it.
Yes.
We just need to decide where.
Where, yep.
Right?
We
In
need
this
where,
park.
we need
Over there.
words and format, like form, and then we need funding.
Okay, all right. So then I think the last thing is we have to decide whether it's a bench standalone or a plaque piece too, right? So what do we need to do to kind of come up with that decision? Is it going to be more based on location or do we want more input? I mean,
Well, John's already got language going, so I would say probably wait for him to come back, see how much language he has. If it's a good sized plaque, you're not going to put that on a bench, probably.
put it on a sign and.
You could do like a plinth or
Yeah. I kind of like if we had a really big boulder, like if we could get some of those that they tore out of the ground up at the development, not Sage, which the other one.
Just move it
Mervyn.
over here, yes.
I
That's
don't know if they
true.
blasted those or what, but
But anyway, yeah, one of those really big boulders mounted on there. Yeah, I liked that idea.
Yeah.
Those are easy to move, so that shouldn't be a
Right,
problem.
right.
Yeah, right.
You'll do that, Christina?
My truck's out front.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, great. I do have one more piece on the proposal.
Yeah.
It's a more discussion. Are we good on the plaque bench? Sounds like we're going to see the wording, make some decisions, and then placement will be somewhere here in the Village Hall Park. The second piece of this too, and again, just as we were brainstorming ideas, was potentially looking at renaming a section of the Marvin Loop or consideration to recognize Mike Cognac's name in the trail. And just doing some research in the state of North Carolina, just most recently, there's been a couple places where greenways or parks have been renamed for council members or members of the community. In Greenville, just last year, they renamed a park for the council member who had been very instrumental in creating greenways. So that park has been renamed the Inez Fridley Park. Up in Asheville, there is this is more of an environmentalist, Wilma Dykeman, who had been involved, and lots of work on that French Broad River area, and the council about 3 years ago then renamed a section of the Greenway in Asheville under her name. So obviously, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that that's a practice, but it just did see that it's been utilized in our state, and I think it's something to consider, given Mike's role and the opportunity. Right now, it's called the Marvin Loop, but
Yeah, it's
certainly.
not really a sexy name.
That's
Yeah.
not a sexy name, and there's a significant phase that we could also designate if, folks wanted to keep a whole loop called something else. So anyway, just opening up for discussion, feedback.
Mike Cognac Memorial Greenway does have a ring to it.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, what about like the Village Hall Park? If you like named after him for a memorial, like would that also work since like it's supposed to be part of it?
I mean, naming like the park after him as opposed to the Greenway, that's a lot. I mean, does the park have a name? I mean, that.
Nope.
Nope.
Right now, it's Village Hall Park, which is equally unsexy.
But that's what it's gonna be called. I mean, that's what everybody's gonna call it.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
call the other one the park.
Well, yeah, but I think Eford, I guess depends, right? Some people call it Eford, I mean, yeah,
I think everyone
Eford-
calls it Eford.
Yeah, I think Eford's gets cut on, right?
Funny,
So,
Because I would never call it. Eford,
If we
like
ever
about
get to
Marvin
a
Eford.
point where we have more than one park.
That's a good point.
okay. So one thought, Mike, you're
Names will be
proposing
important.
is potentially calling out the park after Mike versus the Greenway or both. I mean, thoughts on that? Does that,
I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with naming one or the other after him. The only thing that would tip me in favor of doing the loop is that one of the reasons you had proposed that we put the memorial plaque near the loop was that was one of the things he was most instrumental in. So I guess poetically, it sort of makes sense to name the trail after him, but I'm also open.
Yeah, he probably didn't envision that.
No.
No, I imagine not, but I'm open either way. I don't really have strong feelings either way about which one. So.
And I think would we say?
Yeah. So let me kind of bring that conversation back to council, and just kind of, it is a newer idea as far as the naming of an actual trail or loop. The other thing I would say, and of course, Mike was instrumental in the loop, and obviously we've discussed wanting to recognize him, but there may be other areas, or folks, even from a historical perspective, that we might want to, recognize at different points too. So, but let me just kind of, bring this up at our next council meeting, and kind of gauge their thoughts about actually renaming trails and stuff, because I don't know that we've had that conversation before. And it does sound like a good idea to bat around, but wouldn't want us to get too far down that road unless, others on council agree as well.
Okay, that would be great, John. I know that you've got an upcoming meeting. Is there anything then from a formality ideas, then Mike or John would take this to the council? Is there any kind of recommendation we need to make, or these are just ideas we're floating at this point?
I think you guys are in a good place. John's working on his language. He can go ahead and take the idea back to council about renaming a portion of the trail. We've done that sort of thing in the past. I don't know if that's something that the council wants to keep doing. But I think you're in a good place. I don't think...
Like Marvin Eford Park, for example, the Efords were part of the ones that, really gave us a nice discount on the purchase of the park, So, the Eford is a long-time historical Marvin name that was preserved in that way,
From a process standpoint, John's got his marching orders. I think you guys are good to kind of hold off on this discussion until we figure out more with the Village Hall Park. If you guys want to actually put this, a walk of honor on Village Hall Park, we're going to need to get further down that process first to really figure that out. I would ask Tyler some of those questions once he gets in, once we get to those plans. But yeah, I think you're good to kind of hold off for a bit.
Okay, great. Any other feedback before we close out this topic? Okay, thank you all for your input, and thank you, John, for taking this forward. Okay.
No problem.
Next item up is of new business discussions. So, Tyler, we're going to be talking about the new Village Hall design. I think Dewberry came back last week with some updates, and then you're looking for some design inputs, and maybe you can also map out the timeline for this.
Yeah, so we got our final 95%, 100% plans from Dewberry presented to council at our last work session meeting last Thursday. I shot you guys an email with a copy of the plans that were presented. Pretty much from the PR&G, what we're going to be doing moving forward is kind of focusing on the landscaping. Plantings, where there's already a proposed landscape plan inside these plans, but the way we kind of shifted the project around, we're doing the landscaping in-house. So we're kind of bringing this to the PR&G, hoping that you guys will more so kind of handle, what do you guys think about like this tree buffer, around the generator, the flowers in the rain garden, the plantings out and around the park. Just because you guys have the expertise on that, and just looking for y'all's input. I'd love to make a recommendation to the council at the next meeting, or if you guys don't think we can so, we can see about doing it at 2 meetings away. But it's nothing like pertinent, nothing I have to report to Dewberry or anything about the landscaping. It is just for us in-house to do, like Davies guys, this PR&G, us. So I was hoping this could get done at the PR&G level.
Tyler does need a tacit approval on the plans if you guys are good with them. Council made a motion during their last meeting to proceed with these plans contingent upon your approval. So Tyler, can you talk about where we are in the timeline?
Yeah, we're at the end of the timeline. We're, timeline's over. No. Yeah, so upon y'all's approval of these plans, that I'll take back to the council at the next meeting, just overall in general approval of the plans, that's really gonna start our hard, fast push we're finalizing the permitting with our engineering group. We're getting the RFP advertised, we're getting the RFP out. We're trying to get that moving as fast as possible so we can get this out to bid, get a firm selected, and begin construction ASAP. Because we are on a timeline for the project by November 30th of 2026.
2026, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
So Tyler, I think in the meeting,
That timeline a little better. So while the landscaping itself is probably the last thing to be done, what we need to have available now, built into the plans, is the conceptual places of where that landscaping will be done, or does it need to be like down to the individual type of, flowers and, plants and things like that?
No, I think location of stuff is good. Like it may be even if you guys just wanted to say you agree with the proposed, on the form I emailed y'all, I believe it's the last image. I haven't pulled mine up yet. The very last map is the landscaping map that you'll see like when you scroll towards the end. Maybe even if like I could just get that you guys approve of where things are. If you guys wanted to recommend changes of where the trees are, where the flowers are, because at the end of the day, we are going to have more of a say, like the say-so on what is planted, like flower-wise, tree-wise, stuff like that.
not the what right now, it's the where those.
It's pretty much like, yeah, the where, do we agree with this?
And Tyler, didn't they, I thought in the council meeting last week, they had said there's a couple changes to the design, right? One was that they were gonna remove one of the was it the rain garden? They were gonna remove, and they had one more different surface they were gonna utilize. I can't remember, but they had a couple things, and I thought that's what we were also approving or just being aware of.
Yeah, so an update on those plans is, in the last plans you guys saw, there was a second BMP or rain garden kind of towards the back of the property, kind of where I'm pointing, which doesn't do anybody this way, trying to show, back behind, kind of behind the parking lot. That is gone. We end up not having to do that because the update to the surfaces around here is going to be a permeable concrete that lets water flow through, so the second rain garden isn't necessary. And yeah, so the permeable concrete will be like the walkway around over there at mine and Davy's office that loops completely around. And then you'll notice there's an add alternate on the plans for a sidewalk to go out that side of the building to connect to the future Marvin Loop. That is very contingent upon the Heroes Memorial, because it's the uncertainty. So it's an add alternate. Like it doesn't have to be there. It just kind of creates an entranceway from over there, but we already have one up there coming off of the loop.
Yeah, I think you guys might do it.
And Tyler, I think about it just coming in, we were talking also about Mike Koniak's recognition too, and we were
Right.
saying, and maybe potentially that little pathway, and I'm showing Jen right here, there's a pathway that you propose might be a place to also recognize him because it's on the way to the Greenway, but it's within the Village Hall Park. But are you saying, so that alternate that's proposed, that's just an option at this point, that loop, the connector to the Marvin Loop, is it not?
Yeah, the connector coming out of like that side of the building over there, that little straight sidewalk that shows on that side.
Yes.
So it's going to go as an add alternate. So like when a firm delivers us a bid, there will be a line like a price with that and price without that. Just because that might not work because there might be a monument over there.
Oh, right.
It's not a required because we have a continuous loop with it coming up there from the Greenway and coming in the full loop around the building and then back to it is a loop.
Okay. You can enter the Greenway from that way then?
Yeah, the trail,
If you,
Yes,
if you,
yes, yes. here.
Pinch down?
Here, this is
So I
it.
think this would be a great
Oh, okay.
place
To
to
recognize.
recognize,
I got
because
you.
the loop will
This is
continue
the-
all this
okay.
way, and this is where it will connect to the loop
She's on the road.
here. And so where I'm pointing at is on the plans where the trail around the perimeter of the lawn of the park
Yeah.
connects with the Newtown Road portion of Marvin Loop,
Oh, we were-
where it does that kind of like funny little S curve, and so maybe even in this little, in one of the little pockets of that curve, maybe, is a nice place to feature something like that, depending on what form it takes. Would be kind of neat, or the other option would potentially be off the parking lot where you would enter from there. Although that's a little less sexy because, parking lot, but.
This is
Um,
the greenway here, too.
So, I am a little bit confused. I mean, I know this is sort of like not our thing, and I know I've looked at these plans a number of times, but on a couple of the pages of this, it's showing a very rectilinear retention pond kind of thing. Is that just for during construction? Because it shows up on some plans and then not on others. Kind of where the one, like right where the amphitheater would go. So if you look at page C102, if you have it,
Yeah. C1.
so it's like, I don't know, third or fourth actual map,
What page is it on?
C102.
Oh, no, it's page number, oh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
very
see
much
what
the
you're talking
beginning, like third or fourth page of map.
I
And-
believe that's the grading plan for where they're gonna, not grading plan, but I think they're just like maybe leaving that undone. I don't think that's like a pond.
Right where the amphitheater would go, and it's right in the lawn, and that's not, and it's not shown on the landscape plan at all, so I'm very confused by what that feature is.
It looks like it is a retention pond or a spillway if during construction.
Yeah, so if it's just for during construction and then it's getting filled back in, then that makes sense. I just had
If
never
you-
seen that before.
If you check the next page, it shows that gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is
Because the
that, like,
next
I'm
page, the
started
actual
seeing it there,
site plan is the next page.
and then
It
not
does say
seeing it
that's
there.
phase one plan, right?
But then it shows up again on C401, which is phase 2 plan.
And I'm definitely not an expert on how to read these, but
I'm a little confused as to what that thing is. But assuming that it's not affecting assuming that there is consistency here and that it's not affecting the landscape plan, then that's just sort of a question as to, is that just for during construction, and then they fill that back in?
Yes.
So beyond that, I am totally going to defer to their expertise, personally, with regard to the composition of the rain garden. I looked over the plant list, and yeah, go, fine. I see no, so I personally see no reason to question them, or spend a lot of time reinventing that wheel. I've never really planted a retention pond like that, so, go them. So I wouldn't step on that personally. I also am fine with the screenings that have been proposed, obviously. I mean, we do need to screen the generator. Having some clusters of plants at, some of the key entrances, like the parking lot, seems very reasonable. And that's really all and then there's a bit of screening planting over here between us and the Zespa property over there. So, I mean, that also seems reasonable, and then if it's mostly a where, not what, like, okay, fine, and then there's a whole lot of trees that are still preserved, so that'll be filled in. The only thing that I have an issue with on here that I'm not seeing with regard to landscaping is that when we do look at the plan that sort of shows the contours of the lawn, which I have no idea which plan that is, yeah, it's sort of faint, but there are some contours to the lawn where there's like a mulched bed under the 2 oak trees that are getting preserved. And then there's an edge to the lawn that defines it. But currently, I'm a little curious as to what separates that lawn from our current lawn, in quotes.
Like from here to right there.
Our mowed weeds that looks like lawn all the way around Village Hall. Like, how does it differentiate one grass from the other? Is there going to be an edging? Or are we going to line that edge with some kind of ground cover or planting that says no longer lawn?
Well, it's
So that's
still
my only
lawn.
question with regard to landscaping.
It's still lawn, it's just not
It's just-
perfect little turf grass.
It's just not,
It's,
and did they have a
I mean, why
species
do
for
you-
the lawn? Is it
why do you need a line around it? I'm just a question.
for care?
You're still gonna mow it?
Maybe not. That's my thing, is that if
You're not
we,
gonna mow the,
is that if we have a lawn and then we have planting, we don't have to mow it, fertilize it, treat it. Anything
Yeah, but
outside the
you-
lawn
you
can now
gotta-
become,
you gotta keep it cleaned out of the things that are gonna take over.
yeah, but we'd prefer not to have lawn generally. So if we have lawn and everything that's not lawn is not lawn, I'm just wondering, can we utilize that boundary and maybe put things in there that,
So you're looking at like close to the road, right?
yeah,
Where the-
yeah. I'm looking at
In
the
between, that DMZ between the road and the
yeah,
proposed sod.
yeah, there's the area between the mulched bed under the oaks and the squiggly bit of the path that I was just talking about.
Yep.
So there's that like blank area there. And then
Well, it's
there's
on either, it
and
goes-
then on the other side of the mulched bed, there's a blank area between the lawn and the retention pond and Newtown Road.
Well, I mean, it goes to the property line on the other side of that whole thing is not.
Well, on the
sod.
other side of the path, it's gonna be pretty much like natural stuff, I think. So
Yeah,
it's
but
not
there's-
gonna be
At least for
mowed
this
as.
drawing, there's only a tree over there. If there's
Yeah, but
that
I
much
thi-
sun, all kinds
But we
of
haven't cleared that out, so right now it's still natural, not mowed, I think.
So if, in my opinion, if you leave that and it's getting full sun and
Mm-hmm.
you don't do anything to it, things will come in that look like goldenrod, that are 10 feet tall, and then somebody will be out there spraying it.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously,
No, I
if
know.
DOT doesn't, somebody will. And goldenrod is wonderful, I love it. But if, I hate lawn.
Mm-hmm.
So less of that, the better. But if it's not, if this is supposed to be a more formal place than my house, then we would have to be thoughtful about what we put in there that was sort of like lawn, but not lawn. So that we don't have to mow it, but you still have to clean it up. Okay, keep it free of invasives, I'll call them
Well,
invasives.
what I'm thinking is adding that to the landscape plan in
I think it would be
at least
awesome.
on the, at least on the margins, and it being,
It could be a,
spreading juniper is low, you don't mow it, it covers a lot of ground.
Just we'll pause real quick.
For example.
Tyler, is this the input you need now, or is this the next level down?
I mean, this is a good conversation. I mean, this is a little,
Yes.
I mean, this is kind of next level,
No, okay.
but like for like next level, like in the detail.
Okay. And I didn't mean to interrupt, I just want to say, because I know you were saying, oh, you saw, which is good, they proposed like different pieces. What they've proposed is more just their ideas, right? Because we're responsible for landscaping.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
what
say
they-
mulch, we don't have to mulch there because that's our input,
Well, of course
right?
not,
Or-
but
yes.
the sort of the idea was what, or not what, but where.
Where,
And so
okay.
I don't want to get too much in the weeds
Gotcha.
of what, except to just convey a concept. And
Yeah.
Okay.
and so
Okay.
that's why
I
I'm
like the
saying,
idea of a low meadow there, that would be
Okay.
awesome, but I
Like
can't imagine that actually happening.
well, I'm thinking if meadow is too naturalized looking for what we're probably, aiming for Village Hall, there are some really low maintenance plants that cover a lot of ground
There are,
that we
There
could
are-
look into to make that not mowed.
there are low, native grasses. That love, purple love grass is sexy, and,
Yeah, any of the low grasses that get you kind of that meadow feel. Yeah, so things like that, actually. It's just so that there is some sort of differentiation
I
between.
mean, I really like the idea of lower muley grass, purple
Sure.
love grass, all through there. And so we're talking about.
It's
between
grass
the-
but not mowed,
Yeah. And you wouldn't have to mow it.
and then David's guys don't have to take care of it.
Well, I mean, you gotta keep the goldenrod out of it, because I'm telling you, that stuff is strong around here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, there will be weeding, but, we'll have,
But no, that would be a great thing to add in there. I'm sure it's getting plenty of sun. And then make those mulch beds around those trees as big as you can stand them, drip line to the drip line. Yeah, and those trees are big.
Big, yeah.
So that's a lot of mulch, but then you're done.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, you gotta remulch it every once in a while, but.
So anyway, that was the only thing, that was the
I
only
love that
landscaping issue. Because otherwise I just see like green lawn
And then
and then
crappy lawn.
crappy lawn.
Okay, so crappy lawns being replaced with ornamental grasses and such is kind of what you're.
Well,
kind of
native
going-
ones,
Right.
because we have plenty to choose from that are not 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
We
that
have
are
some of
not
those
10
too.
feet tall, or the ones that kind of like fold gently
Yeah,
or ripple.
and I think
or,
you made a good point
Love
too,
grasses
that
like
because
this
of this
here.
being in the village hall, we don't want to have it just kind of wild and so
I
there's a-
do know the difference
Yes.
between,
there's a level of, okay, but I think that's kind of consensus, right? That it's going to be a little tighter, neater, but still having the natives and not
Yeah.
requiring
and
as
I
much.
appreciate the number of natives that are, well, they're all native that are in the, whatever, rain garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are great, and I've used a lot of those plants, they'll be fine. Some of those will grow anywhere. You could put
Right.
the
Throw them on a
sidewalk.
rock and they'd grow, yeah.
Yeah, so this is probably too much detail, but I do have a problem with Chinese holly. I don't care if it's Carissa's Chinese holly or those junk, they are invasive. And I understand where they're going to go around that generator, but there are some other plants that could be used.
Could do more of a native evergreen shielding, okay.
There's one that is blooming right now that everybody should have one of, so it's St. John's wort, sunburst, and it would be beautiful around that, and it's just full of bees.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so, and it's evergreenish mostly.
Yeah.
So I've got a list of things that I could, and my other issue is the azaleas.
You're not
I don't
rocking with
get- I don't
azaleas?
get the azalea thing because, A, they're not native, that particular kind isn't, and they bloom for like 15 minutes, and then they're just a crappy looking shrub. I'm sorry, they are not attractive. So I've got a list of things that we.
You got a little notepad, so, okay. Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, that's good. If you make notes of like in-depth plantings, like of actual planting
I see
issue.
where they're putting them, and but that little bed there, it's part of the walkway that goes from the parking lot on into the garden, kind of behind where the amphitheater is. So it's got iris and those azaleas. So there's gonna be about 2 weeks in the spring, it's gonna be gorgeous. They probably won't bloom at the same time, just because.
Yeah.
And then that's it. The irises look great all the time, I think. They're very architecturally interesting looking. Do you see where that is, Jennifer, up there at the top? And so they've got like 284 irises in this thing. That's a lot of irises. And my experience with irises is once you have one, you have 10. So they really spread. So anyway, I have a comment about
But if we're like in location on it, we can get into the weeds definitely on,
the weeds. We keep
you see? But yeah, if we're,
Avoid weeds, but yeah, I mean, we can substitute stuff.
right.
So are we, I mean, other than my like issue.
location, I got no problem. Yeah,
I was
get
gonna say, as
it.
far as location, just have them crosshatch those blank areas next to the lawn.
Right, yeah.
Between Newtown and the lawn.
Yeah.
And it's just one species of something, and just crosshatch it, we'll figure out what to put in there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
And we could use plugs.
And even on that,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that's us, you know what I mean? So if we're making the call, I mean, you know what I mean? So,
It would look really awesome to have, like grass that's like this high that you don't mow. You mow, well, once a year you mow it. And then the turf grass is on the other side of that you do mow. That would look.
have a fairway and a rough.
Yeah, exactly. It does look like a rough. And a lot of golf courses are doing that sort of planting.
Right.
In the rough. They're doing a lot of native plants, so that's very good. That's a good analogy. So I just had a problem with those
Yeah.
couple of plants, but for that place where all the irises and azaleas are, to me, it would be better to have a bunch of different stuff back there, so it would be blooming all the time. There must be a reason why they decided to do that. I don't know what it is. I noticed I didn't say anything about the tiaras because they are one that they get a pass.
So for the construction plans themselves, are you guys okay with them?
Yeah.
And then do we need to make a motion for that? Because that was just a recommendation the council was looking for.
You can. I can suggest one. And now, as far as the landscaping goes, you guys are going to give Tyler some ideas, and then we can sub those in later, correct?
But we could say that this is, do we want to say this is approval of
I would-
landscaping plan?
I'll write out something now.
Just something to take back, to throw back to,
That rain garden is gonna look amazing.
that's going to be really nice driving by.
And it's got some really tall plants in it that I absolutely love, but that's gonna be like, whoa, okay.
But
And then we
what,
can go see
um,
plants.
In the 1,000 irises too, right? She'll be out there.
Tyler, at what
Dividing
stage-
dividing
Irises and
irises
selling
for the-
them.
There you go.
At what stage during the process would you want them to have all recommendations to you by regarding plans? Like, what's your cutoff?
That's, I mean,
Because
after construction, so I mean, it'll be months before we actually need like a cold, hard list, I'd say, of like planting here, planting there, what's going here, what's going there, because it'll be, you know, the tail end of the construction, which could be in the next calendar year.
I also
So,
have some plant sources for you for some of these native plants.
see, perfect. See,
So
we're
by
rolling.
next calendar year, next fall, next spring?
Yeah, I mean,
just
let's,
from a-
I mean, I would love, you know, even end of the year, in the fall, October, something like that, just to have,
how does Q4 sound?
let's circle back in Q4 and,
All right, so
When do you propose that planting would start? I know that's like throwing a dart, but.
I'd say like, I mean, maybe once construction got off-site, then it would go back in, because I mean, it really,
What timeframe is that? Please don't tell me next July. That's all I'm saying, it's
Not
seasonal.
planting, yeah.
Yeah, right? I mean,
it could be, I mean, I don't really, I can't answer that right, exactly right now.
That'd be after your RFP comes in and you get all the,
Yeah, because it really depends on like, if we get a bid on the first round, like or if we get bids and get to select a bidder on the first round, when it's really gonna start, because like, I don't know how much is gonna get done, you know, through like December, January, February, when it's raining and cold, and then, I mean, in reality, this isn't like a huge project, like, this isn't gonna take like as long, it shouldn't take,
almost a cleanup project as much as anything.
like, honestly, like, once that gets cleaned up and the, like, the water stuff, the rain garden and all that stuff is implemented, I mean, and it's just waiting on the grass to grow in the lawn, I mean, really,
Just keep in mind that there are times you can plant and times you can't,
yeah.
right?
I mean, would y'all wanna do some, like, would we plant in the fall?
Spring and fall?
Well, not grasses.
Not grasses, but don't you plant like trees and stuff like that in the fall?
Trees and perennials, absolutely in the fall, but grasses, you want to plant in the spring.
We just would need like plantings, like everything in the ground, like it obviously don't have to be like booming and gorgeous or anything, but like planted in before November 30th, because we'll do like an on-site inspection, like right around our deadline date, which would probably be after, I mean, probably be in December. So if we had everything in the ground just before December of 2026, I guess it really just depends whenever all the equipment and stuff's off of here, you know, then we,
And it may be one of those kind of phasey things where you can, you know,
Yeah.
they're still working over there, but we can start planting.
something might could hop in the spring and then wait and do the rest. Yeah, yeah,
Cool, well, we can talk about sources and timing and all that.
yeah.
So I do have a draft motion for you all. It's to recommend approval of the Village Hall Park construction plans with the board to provide additional plant recommendations by Q4 of 2025.
I make a motion, do I need to repeat?
You
the
can
whole-
say so moved.
So moved. All in favor? All right, motion passed. Thank you, Tyler, for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Jen and Christine, I know you did a lot of work to research and you continue to support the input there. Of course, everyone's as welcome, but we'll work together and learn from you so we can start adding more.
I love that this rain garden looks sort of like a patchwork quilt or
Yes.
something from the plans. It's just awesome. I wish they would color code it. That would have been pretty. I might have to go home and color it.
Okay. All right.
It's gonna be awesome, look. It's gonna look really cool. I know, yeah, we're gonna be having our meetings over there.
That's right.
I mean, why not?
Okay.
Whoa, okay.
Next item, new business, and this topic is about a partnership with the village with the Let Me Run program. And I think folks remember in the last year or so, we've been talking about different ways to connect with running groups and programs across the community, whether they be the formal cross-country or track teams or programs like Let Me Run and Girls on the Run. So I had a conversation last week with Amy Rosmato. Amy lives in the area here, and she's also one of the co-directors for the Let Me Run program for Greater Charlotte. And just a few things, just folks aren't aware, Let Me Run is a running program designed for young boys and young men between the ages of 3rd grade and 8th grade. And it's kind of a combination of getting kids out and active, but also working on building character development, respect, self-confidence through group activities and running. So there's a formal curriculum that the participants go through with the goal of completing a 5K at the end of this. So it's typically done through school programs. Lots of times it's sponsored at the actual individual elementary schools where they'll get a parent volunteer, pull together the kids. The teams are typically 5 to 7 runners per team. They meet for 7 weeks, 2 times a week. They have like a half hour or so of curriculum learning, kind of, engagement with their peers, and then they go out and run for 25 minutes. Again, kind of with the goal that they'll be ready to run a 5K. So it's really an excellent program. It's been along for many years, and I think it does a lot to get kids out and active, as well as, again, some of the character development. And so when Amy came to me, the ask that they have is, again, a lot of the elementary schools like Marvin Elementary, Sandy Ridge, they all have programs, and they have space to run and do programs. Where they have the challenge is when the kids get into middle school, particularly the 6th through 8th grade, there's so much activity the way our campuses are with Marvin Ridge and others, that they've got cross-country, football, all the other sports. So they don't have a space to run. They can't really meet on the campus. And again, these aren't teams sponsored by the county or the school. These are really kind of a club, you could say. And they're just looking for a space to bring and meet, for their kids to meet. It's not a large team typically. By the time they get to 6th to 8th grade, it's smaller than you see in elementary school, but there's still maybe a half dozen or so kids who want to run. Maybe it can grow to, teams as large as up to 2 teams, like 12 kids or so. So Amy came to me and asked, really, can we utilize some resources? We've been talking about greenways, getting the kids out there, making them aware of our greenways in Marvin, and in particularly the park. And so we kind of bounced around the idea of utilizing Eford Park for their teams to meet. Again, it's only 7 weeks in the fall, from October to mid-December, using, the picnic areas. We've got facilities, and then they could run on the loop and do their training there. And she was very, excited that there's, a location that's kind of central to the kids who live in the Marvin area. And also, she's also trying to look at some community give back. The Let Me Run program, part of their curriculum is also community service. So there's an opportunity, because they're going to be in the park, they would want to do something kind of targeted for, our village, our park,
Yeah, like
since they're there.
invasive plant removal, maybe?
Yes,
I'm just saying.
hey, when they're out there running, bend over, pick, run, so.
We'll train them in 5 minutes.
Right, so it sounds like it's a good partnership. Plus, I think that's important is, a lot of the good programming we do is we've got a lot of activities for the younger kids, right? We do the Easter egg hunts, the fun things like that. But our middle school population, I don't know, they're a hard age to engage with anyway. So if we could have an opportunity to bring them to our parks, get them to see more of what the village offers, I think there's also some, kind of a broader reach beyond just the Let Me Run program. So,
Absolutely.
anyway, just want to let folks know what the program is. In considerations, again, they'd be using the park from October to December, twice a week. It's like 4:45 to 6 in the afternoon. So I don't know if there's a lot of activity weekdays in the village park. I mean, we're talking maybe 10 to 12 kids running for 25 minutes on the loop, and just going to introduce the idea, get some
Will they
feedback.
have a bell?
A bell?
When you're on a bike.
Right, and I think
I'm coming up behind you.
they like the idea, obviously, because it's enclosed. I mean, these boys are older, so they don't have to be watched as they run, but it is, it's contained. You don't have to worry about where they're coming back. I mean,
Right. It's a great loop for that. It's absolutely. The only thing I would like is that they kind of became little trail stewards a little bit and started
Adopt a
noticing,
trail,
this
yes.
tree limb fell, or, whatever,
Well,
just
absolutely.
report back.
And that's something we can
Kinda cool.
consider. We've not talked about that. Should some teams maybe adopt a greenway, adopt a section of the trail, and they're responsible, like you said, for noting where there's issues.
I
or-
would absolutely help them learn invasive from not.
Never knew they were coming into this invasive.
They're like, man, I just wanted to run.
Right, so.
Upper body, we got to work that
Yeah.
too.
Any other?
I think it's an awesome program. So this is sort of like Girls on the Run?
It is, it's the boys, it's the counterpart for boys, for Girls on the Run, and they culminate with a big 5K in December, and they do this in the fall and the spring, so if it's something that takes off, we could continue to offer it. The other thing I asked her about, it's not that they're just kids from Marvin Ridge Middle School, but it could be kids in our community, and we might want to consider marketing it to those kids who are homeschooled, or go to small private schools. There's no reason they should be part of this program, and that kind of gives us, again, a bigger reach than just everything is funneled through our primary public schools here.
And I know we've got a lot of homeschool kids, and they kind of congregate at the various parks, but certainly Marvin Park. The different groups of them come together, so they might be interested in that.
So she'd be willing to help us. I mean, she's got different volunteers who come in and coach, but certainly if there's anyone in the community here who wants to be a coach, and
Sorry, not me.
you just want them to pick the invasive plants.
I don't run.
But anyway, so again, and Tyler, maybe that's something you and I can bounce around too. Is that something we want to market to? We're with Amy. Hey, beyond your school kids in the public schools, can we bring this forward to others? And you have to help us understand what's the capacity, of running in space in the park too. So.
Well, they can go in groups.
Right, and they don't have to go at the same time.
10
It's,
minutes later.
yeah, it's not, it's a.
Relays.
There's so much space.
There's space,
there.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not gonna be falling over each other, but
No.
again, they just wanna be respectful and know that they have
That's
permission
nice.
not to be running all over, so.
That's wonderful.
Any thoughts, concerns about this?
If they, I think it's a great idea. You guys don't need to vote on that or anything. We definitely have the space at the park for that. If they do this, have them send us photos of their activities. That's something we can share on our social media and in our newsletter, because we definitely want to highlight the fact that people use our facilities.
Yeah, and I think
And that
they
they exist, because a lot of people don't know what trails we have. And
right.
Exactly.
And she mentioned too, just with the 5K, because I was speaking to her just before the race, and she said, oh, this would be a great place, I could get my kids to run because they're looking for races nearby. So anyway, there's some partnership too, potentially in the 5K, getting more volume,
Cool.
so. The only question she had, and maybe it's more logistics, is there a cost associated with using the park? She wouldn't be using the barn, just the picnic area and the.
Well, and that was sort of going to be my question is,
mhm.
I love this idea of these people using the park, love the program, love everything about it. Do they even need our permission?
And that's why I
mean,
was, people run through that park all the
I
time.
was going to say, I mean,
Well, I feel like, we need to be involved to get the word out. So people
yeah, exactly, yeah. Promoting it, all down for that, but I'm wondering, she could just go use it. Tyler,
Right, I think we want to make sure, like, right, because if you bring 15 kids in there and there's another group having a little soccer camp, I mean, you have to have some, right, Tyler? Yeah.
The park is very busy, so it is good that, like, she's bringing it up, and, like, it wouldn't necessarily even be a rental, like, obviously, it's public open space, like, a lot of it is public open space to be used. But if she was, when we're talking about this, like, partnering up, being stewards of the trails, getting them involved, using them on our social media site, like, I'll definitely be in contact with her and maybe set her up times to go and stuff and, like, schedule it so she's not overly packed. Because, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's, like, soccer, there's some running teams that are out, like, to practice, and, there's rentals and stuff, just to make sure that they're not overwhelmed out there or anything like that. But, no, because they're not going to be using anything. Like, I think at the most they might sit on some of the public picnic tables over there. So it wouldn't be at a cost. It would just be maybe just more of a partnership.
I think that'd be great to have, like you said, the partnership there, and then,
yeah, just so that they know, utilize what you know about how the park is used so that they can target times
when they got time and space.
Yeah, when they'll have, optimal space and then if we end up with a whole bunch of people using it, then maybe we will have to kind of
Calendaring, right.
coordinate.
Yeah.
Not to necessarily have people pay, but just to calendar it, like reserving, reserving a tennis court or whatever.
right. Do we have any
Exactly.
calendars today that do that today, Tyler, so that we know, do we have a calendar of practices or whatever we have going in there today?
Yeah, mostly. I feel like it has slowed a little bit. Like, Girls on the Run does a camp there in the summertime. They'll do one in June. I believe the middle school cross-country team used it in the spring, or kind of more late winter, early spring. So there's a lot of running, which is great. A lot of health and wellness going on in the village right now. But yeah.
Slow down in July.
Yeah. That'll turn to early morning stuff. But yeah, we got soccer shots out there 3 or 4 days a week. They're great people to have out there because they keep it really clean, and they're a great program.
Keep a calendar of all of this, or is this just sort of something you're kind of aware of because you're interacting with them?
I keep a calendar for a lot of it, like the cross country, the middle school cross country team kind of reserves the field across from the barn.
Okay.
And like Soccer Shots reserves the fields,
Okay.
And then, but I'm sure there's stuff that goes on that, like, is just happening, like, because again, but it's public. People can meet out there, but
But I think once you maybe have, like, I guess that's a question, right? Once you have a critical mass of like more than
Yeah.
whatever that is, you want to have it reserved so
The
that,
public can go out there anytime, so they could show up.
right.
But
Like, the middle school
if you
cross-country
wanna
team has
make sure
sometimes
you're not-
upwards of 100 kids. I don't know, like, I'm saying,
Yeah.
it's not
yeah,
a
they've
small-
had a good,
It's
but
not a small team, so you
No.
wouldn't want to be there when,
when they're there,
or
yeah,
have another
exactly.
team there. So maybe we can talk about like calendaring, but, and also, as you mentioned, I don't want to take this too long, is the Girls in the Run program. We reached out to them in the past. Perhaps they want to do something formal like this. Maybe they have another need like the boys,
Right.
the Let Me Run program, where they need space, or like a homeschool community team they could potentially leverage theirs.
for sure.
Well, thank you guys.
I think it's great.
And I'll put Amy back in touch with you, Tyler.
Yeah, well, I was typing her an email right now.
Good, okay. You're fast. Okay, moving on then. Let's see, we're on to reports and updates. So Tyler, you're up. You can't type your email. You gotta do
Yeah, don't type.
You've had a few events in the last 2 months.
Yeah, so I guess we haven't been together in a while. Marvin Day, thank you all. Went over great. We had great turnout. I think the kids had a great time at Marvin Day. The staff and the volunteers, y'all were all fantastic, and the food was good, and the music was good, and it was a fun little evening. We will probably next month in July probably get the Marvin Day Planning Committee back on it, and we're getting the band back together. We're gonna run it back. Yeah. Then after Marvin Day, what did we do? We went. Easter egg hunt before Easter egg was before that. So we went to the 5K was last Saturday. That was awesome. We had a great morning. We had about 230 something runners out there. Had a bunch of vendors. I think about 16 vendors. Had some coffee. Publix came out. Shout out to Deb. Really hooked me up with a bunch of vendors. She was behind the scenes working hard. And then we had like Christina Traub out there. I mean, it was great. It was a great morning. Thanks for everybody who was volunteering. Michael ran that thing in like 30 minutes. Michael smashed the 5K. And then, it was just a good morning. It started at 8 a.m. The race was at 9. The kids' fun run was at 10. And then,
Weather was great.
we had a beautiful morning. We got lucky because it was nasty all week. And then luckily, it was we have a great path set out there, and you get finished on the greenway that's not muddy.
It was well paved. It was well
Yes.
sealed, right? So it was.
And I got a bunch of good feedback from like runners and stuff. People were loving it. They loved the T-shirts. They were like, "Don't ever stop doing this." Like, so people really enjoyed that race. So that's a fun one to do. Yeah. We ended up with about 230 something.
Didn't acknowledge Austin's.
Um,
too, right?
well,
I mean,
Austin ran it a little faster than I'd like to admit. Austin wasn't that he was zooming.
Don't inflate my ego too much.
Yeah.
He's fueled by bagels, apparently.
Yeah, bagels and banana cream coffee and stuff like that.
All right, we'll just moving on.
But no, that was fun. Paul and me was helping out. We had a great turnout. A bunch of staff. Jill was out there. We had a lot of people came out and helped, so that was awesome. Thank you to everyone.
But you did a fantastic job, Tyler, just recognizing what you've done. I mean, you kept it all just really well smooth. Together and just, just one after another too. I just kind of recognize you had so many events back to back, and keep pace with this has been tremendous. So.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And
He'll take the summer off, thank you very much.
yeah, it sounds like a plan, guys.
Car show coming up, right? And
Yeah. So, and then at the end of this month, on Saturday the 21st, we're going to roll out and try a Marvin car show. We're going to do that at Eford Park. You can bring, if you got a classic, if you got like an import, like if you got something crazy, bring it on. Everything's welcome. We'll do it out at Eford Park. It's from 8 to 11, Saturday morning the 21st. We're partnering up with First Class Cars, which is a dealership out of Charlotte that focuses on vintage and like luxury cars. Like there's going to be like some McLarens and some Corvettes and stuff, and then they also have like some older, like the Mustangs and the Novas and all that. So if you're in the community and you got something, bring it out that day. We'll park you. Or if you're just in the public and want to come see some cool cars, come down. And then so that should be a pretty fun morning. We'll have like a coffee truck, then there's a breakfast truck coming.
You said 8?
Yeah, early, 8. Well, you can start coming in at 8 a.m.
Do you know me? Put it in the calendar.
are we soliciting or have we published that community members can bring their?
Yeah, so we've started the pushing it online. First Class Cars has really pushed it online. They came out and did some really cool like PR and stuff at the park. They took some cool drone footage and some pictures and stuff. They brought some luxury cars out, and they sneakily have like a huge presence online. So I'm not worried about people coming because I will. I feel like I should come on here and say that we may run out of room inside the park. So
Like a Halloween kind of thing. day.
Yeah, so like, if you show up, even if you're in your cool car and you show up, there is a slight chance that if we're at capacity, you may not be able to get in, because I mean, we can hold we can fit a good bit of cars in there, but at some point, usually if there's a ton of people,
Are you gonna put them in the field over there?
if it's dry, we have, it's nice that we've paved everything. We're definitely reserving all the paved spots for cars. We'll try to put the public in like the lower area grass and stuff like that. If it's dry that week, we will park some of the vintage cars in the lawn. We'll have the grass cut short and everything, and so that'll be an option. You can back in and pop out and put a lawn chair beside your car and pop the hood and hang out.
As one should.
So this is free to the public?
Yeah, absolutely, free to the
And are we
public.
gonna have vendors?
We not like tents or anything. We just have a coffee truck, a breakfast truck. ISI is that local ISI Waxhaw down there at Publix is popping out and doing something because the owners of First Class Cars, I got with them because they're pretty local to the area. They just moved down here and they wanted to really get involved. So they're doing a lot of the legwork. We're going to staff it like with Public Works and everything, and we'll get off duty and stuff like that. But this is a very, very minimal to us event. So it's very nice to partner up with First Class and do this. No shuttle, nothing like that. This is more of just first time, roll it out, see what it looks, see how it goes. Try something new.
I like because you've got a different reach. We're talking about, right, the kid family focus, and now you've got some other populations.
Yeah, try to bring in something different. It seems like there's a lot of cars in the community. Like everybody here has got something pretty cool stowed away in the garage. So it's pretty exciting. The mayor did tell me I could come pick up his car and bring it because he's not going to be there, but I hope he's listening to this. But
Yeah, do you need any like volunteers to help for that event?
I always need your help, Michael.
All right, appreciate it.
You can help park the cars, is that?
We'll let you back them in. No, but yeah, if anybody wants to come out and help, feel free. It'll be a pretty cool morning. It'll be pretty, 8 to 11, and then it's over.
So it's on the 21st, right?
Yes, Saturday, June 21st.
Got it.
Yep. And I'll shoot you guys some calendar invites if you'd like, and if anybody's got anything cool, drive it. But what else we got after this? What we got coming up? So, working on getting some Marvin Kids Day Camp stuff going with Union County, hopefully in July. Take some kids back down to the lake, have a good time. Hopefully going to do that a couple times.
Would be something.
Say that again, John?
National Night Out eventually in August usually.
Yes. So that'll be on August, I believe. Hold on, I'll put it in my calendar. That'll be August 5th. National Night Out will be. We usually do it from 5 to 8. Only that's a Tuesday, it's the first Tuesday in August, and there will be free hot dogs for the community. Come out, meet your local law enforcement. We usually get some good sheriffs. We get the fire department to come out, bring a cool truck. A lot of cool stuff for the kids and the family. That's usually a really cool event, so it's fun to do something like that. We have some really good volunteers from a young men's group who usually come out and help us serve the food. We usually have some good support from the PR&G, grilling hot dogs and having a good time. So,
I could burn some hot dogs.
now, yeah, I'll give it to Culp. She can burn a hot dog or two. But no, yeah. So that's pretty much what's rolling out through the end of the summer. Really trying to fill the schedule up, get some daytime stuff going. Hopefully we can get this worked out with Union County, and we'll get our kids going. We had a huge turnout, or a really good turnout of Marvin residents last summer when we went down to the lake. So I hope I can do that 2 or 3 times again and try to do some new stuff.
The
Cane Creek, going to Cane Creek camps. Kind of not waiting on them. They had a little bit of a rollover in staffing, so I'm kind of waiting on them to get fully staffed again and then set it up.
Do we have any stargazing events this summer?
No, that's probably gonna be more of a fall thing, because I remember that.
It gets dark so late.
Late,
that
I know, then
we
you're
have
up
to
late.
take
It's
a
just,
It-
it's finally warm to be sitting out there, so.
Right, it was, because that first time we did it in the summertime, it was great. but then it was like 9:15 and we're,
It's fine with me, but that's not for most people.
yeah, that's a tough sell on the kids, but even the adults enjoy that one. So that will be something we do again. Dr. Albus is great. He came out to Marvin Day.
Yep.
He's a great steward in the community. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for events coming up to the summer. Keep you guys posted if we roll anything else out. Yeah.
Okay. Trail, actually, I don't, and maybe it's kind of inserting here, but I did want to get an update from Christina on some of the events tied to Habitat Builders, because it also is being, you're using
For sure.
the park too.
So the pollinator garden is going full force. If you want to see some bees, please go over there right after this. The milkweed smells fantastic. The orange milkweed does not smell, by the way, but the big kind, it's about the color of y'all's shirt, these big flowers on it. It smells wonderful, and it's about this tall. So, and anyway, there's lots of stuff going on over there. But we also started a mini tree farm inside of the community garden plot. Habitat Builders took over the community garden. It's full. There's corn growing in it. I don't know if anybody's seen that. I mean, it is 8 feet tall. And it's got little corns on it. You know, it's very cute.
It's always fun when they do what they're supposed to.
Exactly, in a bed, you know, the size of a table. But anyway, so we've got a mini tree farm going on in there. I've got 65 trees, 6 different species. So far, so good. 10 that are sitting over there in the ICU. I don't know what's going on with them, but, you know, we're hopeful.
Does Habitat come in, builders come in and care for them and water them?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
you
we're
have got a
watering
team.
them and potting them up. So we're just putting them in bigger and bigger pots. 6 of those trees we got from Subaru when they, around Earth Day. I don't know if you guys saw the marketing. They were giving away a tree. You didn't have to buy a car. You just get a tree. Well, apparently they didn't give away all of them, and Jennifer Barbara went over there and got 6 Shumard oaks that are 5 feet tall.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're huge. And so, you know, those are probably 2-year-old trees. So they've been potted up. And anyway, go look at our tree farm. It's cute. The idea is that we will be giving those away to public installments. So eventually, part of our Arbor Day program, we'll just source our own trees because they're really hard to find. But for now, we're just growing them. None of them are old enough. We've got Moth Night coming up on the 12th of June. That's going to be in Waxhaw this year. Last year it was in Marvin. That'll be at Town Creek Park, that first park you get before you get into Waxhaw. We're also doing the Cane Creek water sampling again this year. That's for Swim Guide. So we sample on Thursday mornings, and then Catawba River Keeper posts those results for the waterways everywhere in their area. In this area, but they've added Cane Creek to that. And so they'll tell you whether it's safe to swim in it or not. We're doing that through the end of August. And also, since we were talking about August, we're gonna do the pollinator count again this year on the 23rd, August the 23rd, in the pollinator garden. We should be doing it right now because they're just crazy in there. But you just go in and we've got a little form that you fill out, and you just count the number of bees on the, you know, you look at a section of plants like this big, and you just count the number of bees and what types they are, and it's a citizen science type of thing. We've been doing it, I think this will be the 3rd, 4th year, I don't remember. Anyway, it's really cool. It's part of, Georgia Extension does this throughout the entire Southeast now, so it says Great Southeast Pollinator Count, so that's a lot of fun. And June is pollinator month, so go out there and pet some bumblebees.
Okay.
Seriously, you're supposed to be able to do that. A friend of mine does that. I am not an advocate of that. I think that's everything. I feel like there's more.
Well, you guys have done a lot, and it does look great, the area you've been building up, is the pollinator, is that what we're calling it? What is the
I'm
term?
calling it a
The
pollinator garden now. It
pollinator
used to be a
garden,
cottage garden. It's not a cottage garden anymore. By anybody's estimation, it's a pollinator.
Okay.
That means it can be a little crazy. But I don't remember planting the milkweed, so there's probably a good 20% milkweed in there now. Next year, it'll probably be 40. But yeah, so I'm not gonna fight that. There better be some monarchs in there.
So I want to encourage folks to go take a look
Go
at that.
take a look at it.
Take a
Yeah.
smell, and all the good things. Okay. Well, thank you, Christina. Okay, next up, I'm just kind of gave Tyler a break, but you're gonna go back to the trails and greenways. Anything to report on there?
No, nothing to update right now.
So,
Apparently gonna have some little kids running on it.
That was just a
Yeah.
holding pattern.
One update, we're gonna have some kids running, but
Okay.
no, nothing to update right now.
All right, Davey, Public Works report.
Yes, good morning. Over the last couple of months, during the April and May, Public Works staff has completed several projects. One of the items was, as Tyler mentioned, we had the Easter egg hunt and the Marvin Day event in Marvin Eford Park. Our staff did the preparations leading up to the event, taking care of getting the park ready to go, and then we worked both events, but primarily for parking purposes, but if any maintenance issues came up, we would jump in and help with that. Over that time period, we did have 3 down trees across our trails, 2 across the Preserve Trail and 1 across the Amber Meadows Trail, and we had those trees removed very quickly. Staff has, if you've noticed when you came in today, our planting beds and our trees here in Village Hall property have recently been re-mulched. Everything looked really good just a few weeks ago. It doesn't take long for dirt and debris and dead leaves to overtake good-looking mulch, but it still looks in pretty good shape right now. Staff also performed some work at the community garden. It needed a little TLC to it, so we shored up some of the fencing, closed up some critter openings. We repaired the entrance door, and we did purchase and place 3 water hoses inside the garden itself, 2 50-foot hoses and 1 100-foot hose. So it's in pretty good shape at the moment, but we do have plans in the fall to address replacing some of the wood for the fencing and garden itself. So
Yeah, I think that was built in 2012?
I think it's 2012, sure.
It's had a long, because it is in full-on sun. It has had a long life. It's done pretty well. But yeah, the work that you guys did made a huge difference. I didn't realize the fencing was in such bad shape.
Well, I didn't
Kids
either, but
apparently or grown-ups, lean against it, and it looked like bears had been in there. I mean,
Right.
honestly, it was, once you explained it to me, I got it, but wow.
so we're hoping to
Looks
be able
really
to
good.
change some wood. The posts are in pretty good shape. We do need to replace 1 4x4 post, and then you've got the 2x4s around the top of the garden that the fencing actually is attached to. We anticipate changing all of that and adding new fence as well, fencing material. So it'll look really good come fall, but for the time being, it's in pretty decent shape.
No, it looks really good, especially with the corn right dead in the middle.
Yeah. During that time frame, the concrete walkway that connects the upper parking lot to the walkway at the playground and barn was completed. The ground area was, staff kind of prepped that ground area, and we have grass growing there for the time being. We'll see how long that lasts, but we're trying to maintain that. But the walkway itself is working really well. It's been a huge hit. We've gotten a lot of compliments on it. And so we feel like it's added a great benefit to the park itself. Staff did replace a broken sign pole that was located at the entrance to the Amber Meadows Trail. It was just broken due to age, and so we replaced the entire post and reattached the sign. And last but certainly not least, during the week of May 19th through the 23rd, that was National Public Works Appreciation Week, and staff was celebrated during that time frame, during that week. The luncheon was provided for us on that Wednesday, and it was just a good time. Brought together staff and and council and some of the community, and it was a good time and celebrated the good work that our public works staff provides. I'd be remiss if I did not publicly announce their names. Matthew McManus is our Public Works Superintendent, and does a tremendous job staying on top of the little things that we need to stay on top of and keeping Marvin looking beautiful. We have our Public Works crewmen. They each are part-time staff, so they're here on a limited basis during the week, but Silvio Valdez, Jimmy Quinn, and David Crossan, they are, not only are they, just talented in what they do, they are very dedicated to Marvin, and they're willing to come in early, work over late, whatever it takes to get things done. And if you look around at some of the projects I bring up from time to time, they have the talent to jump on a lot of the projects that we have while they are still maintaining the grounds and the buildings and all of the maintenance. But I'm really appreciative of them and everything that they do for us here at the Village of Marvin. So
I would second that, third at fourth at fifth at whatever. The arbor that they built at the pollinator garden is fantastic. We got a vine growing up, that's gonna be awesome. I get the Bradford pear report every once in a while. We found another tree. So that's fantastic though, because, if you don't mark them, we'll never find them once the summer comes, right? Because
Right.
it's just a bunch of green at some point. So the work that they do is fantastic. They really, and you're right, it's like they really love doing it. There's no complaining about it. They seem really interested in what they're doing and really good at it. And
well, thank you.
much appreciated.
I'll pass that along, and but yeah, we're very
And I love
very
the new
thankful.
rose that I have at the pollinator garden too. And water and all that. It's wonderful.
No, I
Well-
second that, Christine, on all the trails too, and we walk the Tullamore quite a bit in Amber Meadows. I mean,
Oh,
just,
yeah.
everything is almost like, because there's nothing, it's always kept tidy, and
Yeah.
it's always.
And it's easy to forget that
Yeah.
that doesn't just happen
No,
naturally.
right, no, it's very noticeable, because you walk in other places and it just doesn't have that same level of detail, so please extend that.
We appreciate the kind words, and I will certainly pass that along to them. And that completes my report.
Cool, thank you. All right, John, Village Council report.
So I think we've touched on most of the items that were discussed. Probably the biggest one was us getting the kind of finalized plans for the Village Hall Park. So, you folks today had a chance to really kind of look at that in more detail. So, we'll give that feedback back to council. In terms of, the upcoming council, I'll make sure that we have some discussion around the memorial, items that we spoke about and so forth. And other than that, on behalf of council, I know we've had a lot of events just go on. I'm excited about, sharing the opportunities to partner with the running groups that Christine is bringing to the table, of course. And I know anecdotally we have been getting more feedback directly from residents, thanking us for, kind of like what was just said, keeping good maintenance on the trails, things of that nature. But I know sometimes those may not always filter back to you folks on the PR&G board, but I know Christina's shared with us some different communications that have come in from residents, thanking us for what they do, and certainly thanking you for what you do.
Gosh, it's just a big love fest in
I
here.
know.
Go pet a bee, right?
Yeah,
Exactly, all right. Thank
Not
you,
a
John.
hornet, a bee.
And thanks, John, for all your support in getting, these items to the council. Okay, that's it on the reports and updates. Austin, do we have any action items? to review?
We're waiting on John's draft plaque language. Tyler's got his marching orders for the Village Hall Park plans, and you guys will work on plant recommendations for this fall. And I think that's about it.
Okay, and no new action items, or I guess anything from today? Do you add that to that then?
That's today's stuff.
That's today's stuff.
This is everything, yeah, from
No,
today.
I owe you a newsletter, but that's not.
You do, yeah. We're a little pressed on time for that. And then going on to the ongoing action items, the only things are, Once Hunter's on vacation right now, when he's back, the next meeting, he'll try to give you all an update on the golf cart ordinance that was on here. You guys we're still working on the Mike Cognac stuff, and light pollution's still an issue.
Yes, it's still an issue.
But that's all.
All right, and any final comments across the board? Michael, thank you again for all your volunteering and getting involved with
course,
these
thank
different
you.
programs too, and your input. Jen?
I'm good.
Okay, Christina? Deb? No? All right. With that, then, I make a motion to adjourn today's meeting at 10:20 a.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. And we will adjourn today. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank you,
being
guys.
here. Thank you. Good job. Oh, thank you. I wrote my tiny little script.
Yeah, I know.
Make a motion. Of course, I could never read it if I